They laughed when I started my business in a garage, called me a failure, a joke. But when success finally came knocking, so did they. And what they asked for shocked me. You ever chase something so hard, knowing damn well no one's coming with you? That was me, 26, broke, and holed up in a garage with a leaky roof and a folding table I called a desk. The kind of setup that makes you laugh and cry at the same time. I had this vision, a tiny business. Just me, a laptop, and a dream that everyone else treated like a disease. They all said the same thing. You need to get a real job. My mom said it with disappointment behind her eyes. My brother laughed in my face. And my dad, he didn't even bother to hide it. Said I was embarrassing the family name, wasting my life on a fantasy that real men grow out of by 25. Even my friends, well, former friends, started treating me like I had fallen off the planet. There were nights I stared at the ceiling thinking maybe they were right. Bills stacked up like bricks. Rent always one step ahead of eviction. I was living on beans, instant noodles, and pride. Not a good combo. I skipped birthdays, weddings, everything. Not because I was too focused. I just couldn't afford to show my face with empty pockets. People love to talk about starting from nothing. I started from less than that. I was down to my last $200 when I printed out my first business cards at the library. They were crooked, cheap, and had a typo in my email address. I handed them out anyway. Nobody called. My so-called support system, they turned into spectators. Everyone just waiting for me to give up so they could say, "Told you so." And maybe the worst part was how lonely it felt. I wasn't just broke. I was invisible. I remember this one dinner at my aunt's house. Big family spread, cousins all talking about careers, promotions, vacation homes. Then there's me, nursing a paper plate of mashed potatoes while someone jokes. "Mike's still playing entrepreneur, huh?" Everyone laughs. I laughed too, but something inside me cracked just a little. But I kept going. Not because I had faith in myself. Honestly, I didn't. I just didn't know what else to do. It was either this or crawl back to the same people who mocked me, asking for a job at my uncle's tire shop or some sad office gig filing reports no one reads. So I stayed in that garage, kept building, kept failing, launched a website, no traffic, tried Facebook ads, burned $30 for one click and a Russian bot, offered free work just to get a portfolio. Half the clients ghosted me before paying. But I showed up. Every single day. There were small wins, here and there. A local cafe used my logo. A friend of a friend needed a rush job and liked what I did. I remember getting my first real check, $200, and holding it like it was gold. I bought myself a burger and cried in the car. Nobody saw that moment but me. And the next day, I went right back to work. But something was coming. I could feel it. A shift. I just didn't know yet how close I was to everything changing. I started calling them invisible victories. Not the kind people post about. No champagne or big reveal. Just those tiny, quiet wins that stack up while everyone else is busy doubting you. Like the time I fixed a website bug at 2 in the morning, finally got the payment form working, and a client messaged me, "You're a lifesaver." That message? I read it 10 times. Not because it was special, but because I needed it to be. The business was still small, barely held together with duct tape and coffee, but I was starting to see flickers of progress. A repeat customer here, a referral there. I built my own invoice template in Excel and pretended I had an assistant when sending emails. It sounds ridiculous now, but back then, every little thing made me feel one step closer to real. Still, it was not enough to quiet the noise around me. My dad came by unannounced one day, stood in the doorway of my garage like he was visiting a crime scene. He looked around at the mess, cords everywhere, half-eaten peanut butter sandwiches, sticky notes plastered across the wall, and said, "You seriously still doing this?" I nodded, trying not to show how much it rattled me. He just shook his head. "You're a grown man. You should have a wife, a steady job, health insurance. Not this." And then he walked out. That night, I sat on the concrete floor and stared at my computer screen until my eyes burned. I wanted to quit. I did. But something about quitting felt even worse than failing. So I poured that anger into my work. I stayed up for 3 straight nights redesigning my services, changed the pricing model, rewrote all my copy. I even shot a low-budget promo video using a borrowed DSLR and a white bedsheet taped to the wall. Posted it everywhere I could. 2 weeks later, I landed my first client outside the state. A small bakery in Vermont. They found me through a Reddit post I had almost deleted. The owner was kind, patient, said she liked that I was a one-man army, paid in full, even mailed me a thank you card with a hand-drawn muffin on the front. That card is still taped to my desk, a reminder that not every win has to come with applause. But outside that little garage, the world still saw me as a failure. At Thanksgiving, my cousin bragged about her six-figure job at a tech firm while everyone nodded and passed the wine. When it was my turn to share, I said, still running my business. My aunt raised her eyebrows. Oh, that's still going. Still going. Like it was a rash I had refused to treat. But I smiled and said, yeah, it's actually picking up. She blinked like I had spoken a foreign language. They thought I was delusional. I knew that. But the weird part? That doubt started sounding like truth in my own head. What if I really was wasting my life? I needed a sign, something solid. Not just another small gig, but something that said, you're on the right path. What I got next, well, it changed everything. But it came from a direction I never expected. It happened on a Wednesday morning. I remember because it was trash pickup day and I had just chased a raccoon out of my bins for the third time that week. I was barefoot, in boxers, holding a broom like a sword, wondering how the hell my life had come to this. Then my phone buzzed. The number was out of state. No caller ID. Normally, I would ignore it. I hated spam calls. But some gut feeling, told me to pick up. Hi, is this Michael Thompson? Nobody called me that. Not unless it was serious. Yes, I said, instantly switching to my fake professional voice. This is Karen. I work with a logistics firm based in Nashville. One of our partners forwarded your name. We need someone to rebuild our internal system. Nothing flashy, just functional. They said you're quick and reliable. I sat down on the step, heart racing. Sure, I said, trying to sound casual, like my legs weren't shaking. I can help with that. We talked for 30 minutes. I took notes like a madman. At the end, she said, can you send over a proposal by tonight? After the call ended, I just sat there. Trash still scattered across the driveway. Morning air still cold. My dog barking at a pigeon on the roof. But in that moment, I felt something I had not felt in months. Hope. This was not just some logo job or a one-off landing page. This was a real contract. A real company. If I landed it, it could cover 3 months of bills, and maybe, just maybe, give me the breathing room I had been craving. I worked on that proposal like my life depended on it. Polished every line. Triple-checked my math. Added a timeline, a scope breakdown, and even a little about me section that made it sound like I was a team, not just a guy in a garage. Sent it off by midnight. I did not sleep that night. My brain ran through every scenario. What if they hated it? What if the budget was too high? What if they ghosted? By Friday, I still had not heard back. I was spiraling. Then, just as I was debating whether to follow up or just give up, an email came through. Subject, approved. Let's begin Monday. I stared at it for a full minute, waiting for it to vanish. Then I laughed, loud and ugly. The kind of laugh that comes out more like a sob. I had done it. I had actually done it. The garage suddenly felt less like a prison and more like a launch pad. But here's the kicker. That woman, Karen, she used to work with my uncle. The same uncle who told me 2 years ago that the real world will eat you alive. I had no idea she even remembered me. Apparently, he had forwarded my info by accident, meaning to send someone else's portfolio. Best mistake of my life. And it was only the beginning. Because that one job, it turned into something else. Something bigger. But success? It always brings shadows with it. And mine were about to show up at my door. 3 weeks later, I had a steady rhythm going. Woke up early, mapped out my tasks, worked long hours, but finally felt like I was building something that could last. The contract with the Nashville firm led to 2 referrals. Then those turned into 5. It was like someone flipped a switch. For the first time, the business felt real. I wasn't rich. Not even close. But the rent was paid on time. Groceries were not a game of math anymore. And for once, I stopped counting change at gas stations. My phone was ringing with clients instead of debt collectors. But the funny part? The people who had mocked me? They had gone quiet. Almost suspiciously quiet. No more calls from my mom asking, "So, are you finally job hunting?" No more sarcastic texts from my brother saying things like, "Still working in the garage like Batman?" Just silence. Until one morning, it cracked. I was working on a logo redesign for a dental group when I got a message from my cousin Danielle. We had not spoken in over 2 years. "Hey Mike. Long time. Hope you're doing amazing. I saw your name come up in a Facebook group. Someone said you built their website, and it looked awesome. Just curious. Could you hop on a quick call later today? I might have a small thing I need help with. Nothing big. Just advice. Grinning face with smiling eyes. Advice. The word tasted weird. I stared at the message for a while. Part of me wanted to ignore it. Another part of me wanted to screenshot it, frame it, hang it right above my desk. Instead, I replied with a short, polite message. Sure. I'm free after 5. That was the moment it began. One by one, they came crawling back. Aunt Trish emailed me the following week asking if I could help her friend's son break into the tech field. My brother called out of the blue, asking if I could connect him with anyone hiring. My mom, after months of treating me like a cautionary tale, left a voicemail that started with, "I always knew you'd make something of yourself." I remember sitting in that garage, now clean and upgraded with real furniture, just listening to that voicemail with this strange mix of emotions swirling in my chest. They all acted like they had supported me the whole time. Like I had just been on some quirky little journey, and they had been cheering from the sidelines instead of heckling from the stands. But it was the next call that hit different. It came from someone I had not heard from since the lowest point of my life. My father. He was the first to laugh when I said I wanted to start my own business. Said dreams were for boys. Real men put on a uniform, punched a clock, and brought home a paycheck, even if it killed their soul. That man called me on a Tuesday evening and said 8 words I never expected to hear. "Can I come by and see your setup?" I almost dropped the phone, not because I wanted his praise, but because I knew he had finally seen me. Or at least, seen the version of me that was harder to ignore. But I was not about to forget how invisible I had been to him all those years. I told him sure. He could stop by. What happened when he did? You are not going to believe what he asked me next. He showed up 2 days later, right on time. That alone was weird. My dad was the kind of guy who showed up late to everything, even my high school graduation. He parked his truck out front, same one he had owned for years. I watched from the window as he took a moment in the driveway, like he was psyching himself up, adjusted his shirt collar, ran a hand through what was left of his hair. Then he knocked. Not barged in, not yelled from the porch, knocked. Like a guest. I opened the door, and for a second we both just stood there, staring at each other. He looked older than I remembered, tired in a way I had never seen before. He walked in slowly, taking in the space. My garage had come a long way since the folding table days. I had real lighting, a clean desk set up, a couch in the corner, even a little coffee station. He looked around like he was seeing it all through fog. Then he said, "So this is what you built?" I nodded. "This is it." He walked over to my workstation, ran a hand across the desk like he was checking for dust. Then he turned, looked me dead in the eye, and said something I did not see coming. "You think you could help me get something started?" That hit harder than any insult he had ever thrown my way. I blinked. "Help you with what?" He hesitated, cleared his throat. "I've been thinking about opening up a small delivery service. Just local stuff. Groceries, parts, that kind of thing. But I don't really know how all this online business stuff works. And, well, you do." He said it quiet, not ashamed, but definitely swallowing some pride. The same man who once told me I was wasting my life was now asking for my help. I stood there for a long moment, letting it sink in. And that is when it hit me. They did not just come back because they were proud. They came back because now I had something they needed. My skills, my knowledge, my time. It was not an apology. It was a transaction. And here's the twist. My dad was not the first person to ask me for help that week. 2 days earlier, my brother had sent me a resume, his resume, asking if I could pass it along to any of my clients. The same brother who once told me I was embarrassing the family by not having a real job. And then there was Danielle again, messaging me late at night, this time with a small web project she hoped I could take on for free, just to help her out. The pile-up was surreal. I had spent years scraping by, alone, doubted, ignored. Now I was the one with the leverage. I looked at my dad, standing in my garage, waiting. I could have told him to get lost. Could have thrown every insult back in his face. But I didn't. Instead, I offered him a seat. "Let's talk through it," I said. He looked stunned, grateful, but underneath that, still unsure. He was not used to asking. I was not used to being asked. And something about that moment felt like a turning point neither of us had words for. But while I was helping him plan his next move, I did not tell him everything. I was already working on something bigger. Something that was about to change everything, for good. 2 weeks after my dad walked into my garage asking for help, I closed the biggest deal of my life. It was not loud. No champagne, no party. Just a soft ding on my phone from a Stripe payment notification, followed by a short email that said, "Excited to move forward. Invoice paid in full. Let's build something amazing." The contract was with a small but growing chain of wellness clinics. They wanted a complete digital overhaul, website, booking system, branding, the whole package. The proposal had taken me 4 straight days to put together. I priced it higher than anything I had ever dared before. And they said yes without blinking. That payment covered 6 months of expenses. It was not just about the money. It was about what it meant. Stability. A real business. I took a breath, leaned back in my chair, and stared at the garage ceiling. Same stains, same cracks. But now, it felt like the roof was finally holding. I thought about calling someone to tell them. My mom, maybe. My brother. Even my old roommate who used to say I was just playing CEO. But I didn't. Because here is the thing no one tells you about making it. When the wins start stacking up, you stop craving the applause. The victory is the silence. No one hovering. No one doubting. No one interrupting your rhythm with their opinions. Just peace. But peace is fragile. And mine got interrupted the very next morning. My brother showed up at my place without warning. I saw him through the window. New haircut, dressed way sharper than usual, holding a cardboard coffee tray like he was filming a commercial. I opened the door. He handed me one of the coffees like it was a peace offering, then smiled and said, "So listen, I've been thinking about getting into digital work too." I tilted my head. Digital work? He nodded. Yeah, like consulting or freelancing or whatever. Figured maybe I could shadow you for a bit. You know, learn the ropes. He said it like we were 2 colleagues swapping ideas over lunch. This was the same guy who once told me, "You'll be 30 with no 401k, living off ramen." I stayed quiet. Then he leaned on the door frame and added, "You've built something solid, man. Honestly, it's impressive. I always knew you had something." That last sentence made me blink. Always knew? Really? But I just nodded, took a sip of the coffee, and told him I was swamped that day. "Shoot me an email with your questions," I said. "I'll get to it when I can." He looked surprised, like he expected me to roll out a red carpet. Then came the kicker. "Also," he added, "I was wondering if you could introduce me to that clinic you're working with. You know, help me get my foot in the door." That was the moment it clicked. They were not just coming back with praise. They were coming back with open hands. Not to celebrate, but to collect. And they had no idea. I was no longer the guy who said yes just to be accepted. I did not respond to my brother right away. Just gave him a polite nod, told him to follow up with an email, and closed the door behind him. Inside, I just stood there. Not angry, not smug, just clear. For years, I had bent over backwards trying to earn even a sliver of their respect. Now here they were, knocking on my door, hoping I would lend them mine. A week later, my inbox was flooded. Danielle sent me a long-winded message about how her husband had lost his job and how tight things were getting, and maybe I could throw some freelance work their way. Just something small to get us through. She signed it with a heart emoji, like we were still close. My Aunt Trish followed up on her original email, asking again if I could mentor her friend's son, who, by the way, had just dropped out of college and thought tech stuff sounded fun. "You're so good at this," she wrote. "Maybe you can help him get started." Then came the real test. My mom called. Not just once, 5 times in one day. When I finally picked up, she skipped right past any sort of greeting and went straight into how it would mean a lot if I could help out with my cousin Jake. Apparently, he had gotten into some legal trouble and needed to build a professional image online. Fast. I just listened. Calm. Still. Then she said the thing that really landed. "You've always been the responsible one, Mike. We're counting on you." That sentence used to light a fire in me. Make me feel guilty for not doing more. For not being enough. But this time, it rolled right off. I told her, "Mom, I'm not in the business of fixing what other people break anymore." Silence. Then a soft sigh. "You've changed," she said. I looked around at the business I built, the invoices paid, the calendar full of clients who respected my time. And I said, I had to. After that, I created something new. A personal rule. One that guided every decision moving forward. I help people, but only on my terms. No more guilt. No more obligation. No more saying yes because I was afraid to lose what little affection I used to beg for. If someone reached out and they were honest, respectful, and upfront, I would listen. But if they came to me with flattery soaked in manipulation, the answer was no. Simple. It was strange, really. I always thought success would feel like fireworks. Applause. A speech with music swelling in the background. But what it really felt like was permission. Permission to be myself. To say no without explaining. To say yes without needing praise. To stop chasing people who only knew how to take. But I wasn't done yet. Because something unexpected happened next. Someone I had not heard from in years came knocking. And this time, it was not family. It was a rainy Friday afternoon when I saw the name pop up. Rachel. That one hit me right in the gut. We had not spoken in 4 years? Back when I was still working nights at a warehouse and building this business on fumes. Back when I thought having someone believe in you could carry you through anything. She was the one who used to say things like, "You've got vision, Mike. You just need a break." And then one day, she broke. Told me she could not keep waiting on a dream that might never pay off. Said I was stuck in fantasy. Told me, gently but clearly, that she needed someone more stable. Then she left. Now her name was blinking on my screen like it had not been buried for years. I let it ring. She called again 2 hours later. Left a message this time. "Hey Mike, it's Rachel. I know it's been a while. I saw something online. A client of yours posted about your work. It was impressive. Really impressive. I'd love to catch up, if you're open to it. No pressure." I sat there, staring at my phone like it might start talking back. Then, out of pure curiosity, or maybe boredom, I checked her profile. She was married now, or had been. One of those perfect wedding albums full of pastel filters and hashtags like #BestDayEver. But the ring was gone in her recent photos. I clicked on a few tags. Her ex? Turns out he had worked at a competitor startup. The one that went under last year during that big tech downturn. Massive layoffs. Public fallout. Suddenly, her reaching out made more sense. It was not just nostalgia. It was timing. A few days later, I ran into her by accident. Coffee shop on Maple Street. She spotted me before I could duck out. "Mike," she said, smiling like we were still something. She looked good, put together in that effortlessly polished way she always had. But there was something tired in her eyes. Something I recognized. We talked. Surface-level stuff. Weather, work, memories. She laughed at one of my old jokes, the same way she used to. Then she leaned in and said, "I've been thinking about starting something on my own. A creative agency, maybe. I'd love to hear how you built yours. Maybe even partner on something down the line." There it was again. That old familiar rhythm. The pitch. I smiled, nodded, played polite. But inside, I already knew the answer. Because her leaving had almost broken me once. And now she was circling back, not because she believed in me, but because now I looked useful. As she sipped her latte and waited for me to bite, I realized something that changed everything. I did not owe her anything. Not my time. Not my story. Not even my bitterness. I finished my drink, stood up, and said, "Good seeing you, Rachel. Really. Take care." And I walked out. No dramatic goodbye. No cold shoulder. Just peace. But I was not done reflecting yet. Because there was still one person I needed to face before I could truly say I had made it. And that meeting? It came sooner than I expected. The message came on a Sunday night, tucked between 2 spam emails and a receipt from my hosting provider. Subject, "Do you have time to talk?" It was from my mother. We had not spoken in months. After I turned down helping Jake, she stopped calling. Radio silence. No birthday text. No holiday guilt trip. Just nothing. I had made peace with that, mostly. Learned to stop checking for messages that were never coming. Learned to live without the performance of family. But this email was short, polite, almost awkward. I stared at it for a full hour before replying. "If you're in town, stop by tomorrow after lunch." She arrived right on time. I watched from the kitchen as she stepped out of her car, dressed like she was heading to church, too formal for a casual visit, too nervous to hide it. When she came inside, her eyes wandered. She noticed the new flooring, the clean setup, the framed client testimonials on the wall. She nodded slowly, like it took effort to believe this was all mine. "You've done well," she said. I gave a quiet, "Thanks," and waited. She sat on the edge of the couch, purse still in her lap, like she was not sure if she was staying. Then she said it. "I wasn't fair to you. That alone could have knocked me over." She took a breath, then added, "Back when you were struggling, I was scared. I thought you'd fail, and I didn't want to watch that happen. So instead of supporting you, I tried to make you stop. I stayed quiet. Let her talk. I said things I should not have. I didn't believe in you, and I'm sorry. It did not come out dramatic. No tears. No long-winded speech. Just that. Quiet. Heavy. Real. For a moment, I felt like I was back in that cold little garage again, waiting for someone to see me. Now she did. But I was not that kid anymore. I had seen what I could survive. And I had learned something people spend their whole lives never figuring out. You do not need people to believe in you before you get started. You just need to believe enough to keep going when no one else does. I stood, walked over, and handed her a coffee. We sat in silence for a few minutes, just listening to the hum of the space I had built. She did not ask for anything. Not this time. She just stood up, touched my shoulder gently, and said, "I'm proud of you." Then she left. No drama. No performance. Just the truth, arriving late. And that was enough. But it was in the silence that followed where I finally understood something I had been chasing for years. Something I needed to say out loud. And I would say it soon. To the one person who mattered most. It was a clear morning. No noise, no rush. I made my coffee slow, like I had earned the stillness. Then I sat down at my desk, the same desk that once wobbled under the weight of my doubts, and opened my notebook. Not for work. Not for numbers. Just reflection. Because I had been thinking a lot about what success really means. At first, I thought it would look like revenge. Like standing tall in front of the same people who called me a fool and saying, "Look what I built." But it was not that. Success, for me, ended up looking like peace. No fireworks. No speeches. Just being able to pay my bills, sleep at night, and help people I care about without asking for anything back. Last week, I donated a full branding package to a kid in my neighborhood trying to start his own thing. Quiet kid. Reminded me of me. I told him, "I'll help you get started, but you have to promise to help someone else when it's your turn." He smiled like I had just handed him a key to a door he did not know he could open. That felt better than any award ever could. My cousin Danielle still messages me sometimes. So does my brother. They usually start with, "Hey man, hope you're doing well," before sliding into another ask. I do not ignore them. I just answer carefully. On my terms. No resentment. No spite. Just boundaries. My dad's delivery business? I helped him set up the basics. Built him a clean site. Walked him through Google listings. Even coached him through his first invoice. He still has trouble saying thank you out loud, but he shows up now. Calls me by name. Asks for advice, not orders. And my mom? She came by again last week. Brought lemon bars. We ate in the backyard, talking about nothing important. It felt simple. Real. I no longer need her approval. Or her apology. I am not angry anymore. I do not need them to clap for me. Because I know what they will never say out loud. I proved them wrong. But the truth is, that was never the goal. The goal was to prove to myself that I could build something out of nothing. That I could stay standing when no one showed up to hold me steady. And I did. I still work out of the garage, by the way. Upgraded it, cleaned it up, turned it into a space I love. People keep asking when I'll move into a fancy office. But I like it here. Because every time I sit down at this desk, I remember the man who started this. The man with nothing but a cheap laptop, a stubborn dream, and a whole lot of silence from the people who were supposed to cheer. He kept going anyway. So now, when someone new reaches out, someone chasing something everyone else calls crazy, I always write back. And I always say the same thing. Do not wait for permission. Just start.